trust me one last time.
I was running.
Who said you can't kick butt into your 60s? Well, whoever said that didn't tell it to Tom Cruise, or the guy is just so dang persistent he refused to listen, because that's exactly what he does in Mission Impossible Final Reckoning, supposedly the final installment in Mission Impossible. We'll see. But before we jump into a review of the movie, I want to welcome you to the show. My name is Reed Huberman. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Today on the show, I'm going to give Christian commentary to cultural events, because we're living in an age of bad ideas, and the only cure for bad ideas are good ideas. Today's show is sponsored by our friends over at utop2.com. Make sure when you check out to use the promo code IndieThinker10 for a discount on your order. Now, we're living in an age where supposedly morals are shifting all the time. They're constantly evolving to make room for quote-unquote new ideas. We see action stars falling victim to, let's call it, woke ideology.
I'm too afraid of your question. I hardly remember what it was.
When 007 is being re-envisioned, and he no longer has to necessarily kick butt, but he can be a sympathetic character, it's important to have action stars like Tom Cruise to step in to fill in the void where 007 used to be. And that's exactly what Ethan Hunt is. He is a welcome reprieve from so much of the woke insanity of our age. Today, I don't want to give a holistic review about plot or anything like that. What I'd like to do is just give you an understanding of what you can expect before you go, so that you'll know if you should go. And then I also hope to kind of tell you whether or not you should take your kids. And I'll do that first right now. I took my 9 and 11-year-old, and I found that it was entertaining for them, and that, yeah, it has a lot of action. It has 2 cuss words, I think, that I picked up on in the film, but ultimately they were so quick and you almost didn't really hear them that I think it was permissible to take a younger audience to this film, something that you might potentially be able to do with kids of a certain age and certain maturity level. So I do say that this is not a family-friendly movie, but something that you can take kids of a certain age to. Now, beyond that, I would just say that the movie was good. I mean, the action scenes obviously were awesome, and this is where the movie really shines. And it's one of the reasons that people want to continue to go back to see Mission Impossible. In this installment in particular, the action scenes were very, I think, unique in that it consistently showed kind of parallel action scenes throughout the whole movie, where one group of people would be facing something similar to what Tom is facing in a different scene. And so it was really good. In particular, I really enjoyed the plane scene, which all of you are familiar with at this point from the trailer and other places. And the submarine scene was actually really, really cool. The action scenes, obviously, is where this movie truly shines. And of course, the other notable things are the fact that Tom Cruise is doing his own stunts, as he always does. It's hard for me to believe that everything was him, so I don't really know how this works. But if it was, man, that's pretty amazing, especially when we see some of the things that go on with the plane. I won't spoil any of that. I'll just say that if that's all Tom Cruise, that is quite impressive for a dude in his 60s. And he's probably headed for hip surgery pretty soon. And then I would also say not only the stunts, but the running, of course. There's no Tom Cruise movie without running constantly, for almost no reason in particular.
Go to town, man. Go to town. No.
And perhaps one of the most important things, the movie was not woke. Yeah, there's the gratuitous women kicking, full-grown men's butts, and that's ridiculous. And the fact that we have a female, definitely not Kamala Harris, president, and definitely not Hillary Clinton in the film. But ultimately, the movie wasn't woke, and that's definitely a reprieve from so much of what we see in the present. And this is where Tom Cruise is really making a name for himself as kind of the last movie star in Hollywood. He's certainly providing a service for people like myself who actually enjoy going to movies and would like to see movies without being preached to by a bunch of people who have totally bankrupt morals. Now, I do have to get to the cons here, and if you've seen any movie reviews of Mission Impossible Final Reckoning, you'll know that one of the big cons here is that while the action scenes are great, the long exposition that has to untangle a very convoluted plot really do take away from the movie. It feels like basically Mission Impossible Final Reckoning is just 2 different things going on throughout the movie, is that you've got long exposition trying to explain the most convoluted thing you've ever heard, action scene, long exposition, action scene. So that's one of the things that I think is the biggest problem with this movie, is that the plot is so twisted and contorted. And at times a little bit difficult to understand simply because they chose the worst villain possible. I understand we're living in a new age, but still, AI is not really a convincing bad guy, at least at this point, since most people are just using it to make deep fakes and to engage in whatever this is.
I liked how you called him Little Rocket Man.
I said, yeah, Little Rocket. I said, Little Rocket Man, you're going to burn in hell.
And the real physical villain in this film isn't a convincing villain at all, which all adds to the idea that this film seems really long. Unlike some people I know, I actually have an attention span that can watch long movies.
My first argument, most importantly, is that Return of the King is too long.
So it is really long and unnecessarily so. I think the movie comes in at 2 hours and 47 minutes. But the action scenes kind of make up for that. We'll get back to the show in just a moment, but before I do that, I want to let you know that today's show is sponsored by our friends over at utap2.com. If you're interested in getting rid of all of your paper business cards because they're passé, and if you're interested in networking like it's the 21st century, then let me introduce you to UTAP2. This is my UTAP2 card, and just with one tap of this card on the front of any mobile device, I can whisk people away to a specialized URL that will take them to every single point of contact that I could hope to send their way. You can even use things like this UTAP2 tag, which will do the very same thing. So there's convenient ways to network with people like never before. But in order to see all the ways that you can do that, you need to go to utap2.com, where you can scan through all of the different options and printed material that they can make for you and your business so that you can network like never before. And don't forget, before you check out, use the promo code IndieThinker10 for a discount on your order. The other thing I would also add is that there's certainly things that take you out of the plot during the action sequences. Like, for instance, when Tom is swimming around in the submarine, he cuts his clothes off in the middle of Arctic water, which would be a problem, like within seconds. Now, there's also other things like bad acting. So this guy from Severance really comes off as the guy from Severance in Mission Impossible Reckoning. He keeps on calling Ethan Hunt Mr. very oddly, and it's just like, hey dude, you don't have to act weird in every single one of the films that you're in. And then there's also tropes, like, I don't know, long monologues by the villains, and even evil maniacal laughter. That's right. At the end of the film, the bad guy, which really isn't a convincing bad guy, laughs because he's the only one with a parachute right before he smacks into the back of a plane and his head is cut in half.
Spoiler alert!
All that to say this, that Mission Impossible was a fun film, and as long as Tom Cruise is making movies, I'll go and see every single one of them because it is a welcome reprieve from so much of the woke nonsense that is coming out of Hollywood today. However, I would mention that at 62, Tom is getting a little bit old to be the last action star that we have in America. And I would argue that that's largely true. Of course, we have some of the guys from Marvel and all that kind of thing, but largely Tom is the one that's doing these big, epic action films that really capture the attention and the heart of moviegoers. And when Tom goes, I'm not sure who's going to take his place. Throughout the Mission Impossible series, he communicated this message, that heroes are often misunderstood, that it takes courage to push against the opinions of people and to do what is right, even in the face of opposition, on your own side. Now that's a kind of courage that is very rare today. That's why the message of Mission Impossible throughout the series has been quite a welcome reprieve from so much of what we see. But when Tom goes, I wonder what will take his place. If we don't truly fill the role of heroes in our life with those who are worthy of praise, then I wonder what becomes of the culture. I can only suggest that instead of prizing and valuing anybody in Hollywood, that we look higher. Maybe
You need Jesus?
And if we truly begin to value the right things and have the right kind of heroes, well, I think we can expect good movies in the future, and more importantly, a brighter future. All right, thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Don't forget to become a member if this show was beneficial to you. You'll love becoming a member because you can gain access to exclusive perks like movies, ebooks, documentaries, and so much more that'll help you take your faith to the next level. And you can do that by going to IndieThinker.org/support. Don't forget to check out the sponsors down below in the description of this podcast, but most importantly, go with God.